I'm Bryan Catherman with SaltyBeliever.com, and I want to recommend a book to you by Benjamin Merkle, Discontinuity to Continuity, a survey of dispensational and covenantal theologies. I realize, it's on the Kindle. That's how I bought it. It was a little bit less expensive. Not a very exciting cover to show you, but there it is nonetheless. Benjamin Merkle, Discontinuity to Continuity. It was published in 2020 by Lexham Press, and it's about 250 pages. Okay, so what is this book? This book is an effort to survey the various views of how the Old Testament and the New Testament fit together, various interpretive principle, typology, how certain questions are addressed, basically a survey of dispensational and covenantal theologies, like it says. Now, the difference between a book like this and one that would be, say, the 3 views, 4 views style of book is Merkle didn't go out and find a bunch of different people to write large essays, to argue, and then give the essays to the different authors to provide rebuttals to one another. It's not that kind of book, although those books are great. I enjoy them. This book is a little bit easier to read because it's not a book like that. Basically, Merkle identified 4 major questions that would be questions that would show some of the distinctions between the various zones on the spectrum of discontinuity and continuity, or dispensationalism and covenantalism. And after identifying those questions, he then identified the zones, and he ends up with 6 categories, 3 that are within the dispensational spectrum, so like kind of a far side of the spectrum in classic dispensationalism, and then revised dispensationalism, and then progressive dispensationalism, so 3 categories. And then moving towards continuity, then progressive covenantalism, and covenantal theology, and then Christian reconstructionism. And so he takes those 6 zones and he says, okay, I'm going to ask these 4 questions of all 6 of these ideas. And then he identifies the prominent theologians and writers, those who've put forward arguments in each one of those categories, and he surveys their writing, and he provides the answers to the questions he asks from those writings, which is incredibly helpful because you're getting not the person who agreed to the publisher to argue, but you're getting people who've long since passed away, who've done some major writing on the topic, maybe people who have really just brought the issue to the surface better than anyone else. It's very, very helpful. It's a fantastic way to look at dispensationalism and covenantal theology, and also get a better handle on, there's kind of a different spectrum in which we can think about these things. So it's not just one or the other, but in fact, even within those views, there's some different ways of looking at it. And the questions deal with an interpretive approach to 2 different scriptures, one in Romans, one in Galatians, that can be really complex, how they view typology, and just various approaches to scripture. It's incredibly helpful. I really found this book to be informative, to help me get a better understanding of the various positions. It's helped me to pastor to a church better, understanding the various ways that people in the congregation where I'm at have learned over time, or have heard from their favorite authors, or whatever the case may be. It's been really helpful to just see the whole spread. And then Merkle does this really great thing. At the end of, he kind of does a survey. So at the end of each chapter, each looking at a different one of those camps, he identifies strengths and weaknesses, and he does that really well. So then you go, oh, this is really good here, but not so good here, and here's where. And then he concludes kind of with some concluding thoughts. So if you're looking into dispensationalism or covenant theology, you want to understand the differences, maybe you've never thought about this before, maybe you've never thought about how these things influence our end times views, or how we approach the Old Testament fitting with the New Testament, or that's the whole idea between discontinuity and continuity between the Old and New Testaments. If this is just a new topic to you, man, this is a great place to start. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend Benjamin Merkle's Discontinuity to Continuity, a survey of dispensational and covenantal theologies. And by the way, if you get it on Kindle, it still works out pretty good.